For professional advice with a personal touch, consult F.L. Fuller Landau, Chartered Professional Accountants and Business Advisors. Click on flmontreal.com.
Good evening. Welcome to today's Entrepreneur, a program about the entrepreneurial spirit that drives Quebec business. My name is Dan Delmar, along with FL Montreal's Josh Miller for our final show of the season. Good evening, Josh.
Hello, Dan.
And we'll be heading into our 10th season in the fall. Pretty exciting.
Yeah, we are, you know what number show we're at, Dan? 199.
Wow.
Starting off 10 seasons, going to be number 200.
All right, a lot of pressure on that show. Who's it going to be? We'll see.
Oh, we shall
see. In the
see.
fall. All right, this evening on the show, we're going to end on an adventurous note with Stephane Vachon of Arbraska. It's an adventure company. They do ziplining.
It is. Well, ziplining, treetop trekking, adventure parks. There's actually too much story for this hour, but we're going to get to as much as we can when he comes through the door.
And on a more serious note, we'll talk to Nick Moraitis, tax partner at FL, about an aspect to Stephane's story, what happens when tragedy strikes your business and how to respond to that. So that's on the way. But first, Josh, some entrepreneurial news and notes. And for our last show of the season, you want to get to, I guess, being a lie detector. This is an interesting issue because you never quite know when your employees sometimes, once in a while, are being truthful. Some are trying to get out of work or whatever. How do you know? What's the best way to find out?
And I think just to preface this, and I came across this article on entrepreneur.com, and I get asked a lot of times, what's the best trait to have as an entrepreneur, as a professional, as whatever you're looking at? And while there are many answers to that, I can tell you that I consistently say, whether first, second, or third attribute, be able to read the person in front of you. If you're able to have the ability to read the person in front of you, whether it's body language, whether it's tone, whether it's understanding the words behind it, you will be in a much better position than if you cannot. It'll help you with negotiations. It'll help you with hiring. It'll help you with just understanding the environment around you. So when I was looking at this article a few days ago, it really struck me, and I really did want to bring out to it. And I'm not saying I'm a personal expert in reading body language and all that, but you do develop. If you're observant, you can develop a certain skill set and a certain knowledge on what that is. And I'd like to kind of run through some of the basics in what I read in this entrepreneur.com article. First and foremost, as most people know, words really account for less than 10% of what that person is trying to say. The stat that they put on there is 7%, but second most important is the tone of voice. You can hear what people are saying. The words are there, but you can tell the tone if they're angry or they're not. You've heard many commercials on the radio where they may have the same words in different tones, and it sounds definitely different. But the most important is really the body language and your facial expressions. Those are what really stand out. I mean, Dan, you're talking PR, you're always in a room with somebody. You can just tell. And when you're coaching somebody and, to talk properly in front of a camera, I'm sure these things come out.
Absolutely. Whoops. Absolutely. It does always come out, and people don't know how they act. You need an outside observer to tell you this, and this is where media coaching comes in handy. And I've actually had people evaluate myself because I can't really tell how well I perform on the radio or whatnot. And CJD, they call this an air check, when you sort of go through your shows and make sure that you're presenting correctly and all of that. But everyone kind of who's in a public role needs to be checked by someone independent. And whether it's PR or just your spouse or a friend, have them review your public performance. Be very critical about yourself and try to figure out where you can improve, because you can always improve your performance no matter who you are.
And you really have to be self-aware. And some of the things are obvious. You can tell when somebody's sad. You can tell when somebody's angry. You can tell when somebody is maybe disgusted. You can tell when somebody's surprised. Their eyes light up. So you can tell a lot of these things. Happy, even fear. Fear you can tell, by eyebrows. You can tell by eyelids. You can tell a little bit by the mouth. But what I wanted to kind of bring attention is some of the body language that you can tell when somebody is not being entirely truthful. And somebody can fake it. Of course, you can always have the people fake it, but not everybody is so attuned and self-aware of what they're doing. So what are some of the common things that you would see if somebody was lying? Touching your nose. They say if people touch their nose, they're thinking they're not exactly telling the truth. Or maybe touching their neck or adjusting their tie, kind of, I don't want to say fidgety, but trying to find something to do with their hand. Hiding, rubbing, touching the eyes, even turning their body away from you so that they kind of seem a little closed or don't necessarily want to open up to you. Your eye contact. When they're not looking at you, when they're looking down and to the right, not a good thing. It's this is proven, and this is actually FBI type stuff. This is people that are the security gurus of the world are really, they're the ones preaching this. Holding your lapels, is not necessarily a good sign. And of course, excessive hand gestures because they're trying to draw you away from the words. So these are a lot of body language things that really can indicate you're a liar. Then, of course, there's the speech patterns, not necessarily the words, but the speech patterns. Are they talking faster? Are they repeating themselves too much? Are they using delay strategies before answering with a lot of ums and kind of stretching things out? Are they using third-person pronouns more frequently versus the direct knowledge? Are they using more complex words and sentences? These are things that really are a big, these are some telltale signs. And it's funny, the last part of this article, kind of the heading is how to ask questions like an FBI agent. And you're not trying to grill somebody. It's not an interrogation. But if you can tell, if you were in front of your supplier, your customer, your employee, your boss, or whatever, and you can probably use some of these techniques to figure out if they're actually being truthful with you or not. So the few extra things that they ask, this is towards the end of the article on entrepreneur.com, was you ask emotion-based questions because it's easy to tell facts, it's easy to lie about facts, but when you add an emotion to it, it's harder to display if you haven't actually been there. Change the subject. Changing the subject. If you change a subject and the person in front of you is good with it, that means they're really happy that you moved on. If the person is telling you the truth and they want to finish what they want to tell, they'll say, hang on a sec, let me finish what I was saying. So that's another bit of a telltale sign. Get specific. A lot of people talk in generalities, but if you get specific, again, supplier, customer, spouse, where did you go last night? Who were you with? What time would you eat? All these things. If they can answer things specifically, they're probably more truthful. And if they're vague about it, well, then I would be suspect. And the last thing that this article talks about is use the rule of 3. Answer the same question a little bit differently and see if you get the same response. And if you don't, that means they're thinking too much. It's not coming naturally to them. Anyhow, all these aspects can make you a much better negotiator and much better at able to read the person in front of you, which is an absolutely huge asset to have as an entrepreneur.
I'll add if the person always says, "Trust me." That might be a red flag.
Like a true politician. If they start tweeting all these things, you never know. But being able to, again, always in my top 3, maybe in my top 2, if you are able to have to gain a knowledge of reading the person in front of you, you're going to have a much bigger advantage.
We've ate up the whole segment on just that, but I'll just get your final thought. So you've caught someone in a lie. How do you call them out? What's the business-like way to call someone out on a lie?
I think it depends very much on the situation, and it depends on where you are. I travel to China a lot, and if you want to maintain a relationship and you don't want, and you want to continue working, you can't let that person in front of you lose face. You can't necessarily embarrass that person if you want to continue to do business. I would say that probably applies here too, but definitely you have to be culture aware. I think the situation and the individual will dictate how you approach it, whether you do it one-on-one, whether you do it in a group, whether you do it more direct and in their face, or you try and back their way into it so they have a chance to save themselves. Very case specific.
All right, let's go ziplining with Stephane Vachon of Arbraska. That is next.
For professional advice with a personal touch, consult FL Fuller Landau, Chartered Professional Accountants and Business Advisors. Click on flmontreal.com.
Inspiring stories from outstanding business people. Dan Delmar and FL Montreal's Josh Miller with you for today's Entrepreneur. And for our last show of the season, let's welcome Stephane Vachon from Arbraska. Welcome, Stephane.
Hello, Hal.
Thanks for joining us. And first, the easiest question, what is Arbraska?
Arbraska, it's adventure parks. We have 10 parks, 5 in Quebec, 5 in Ontario. So people come to my parks to live an adventure in forests at heights, where you cross the forest in the canopy at the treetop. So you cross bridges, obstacle course, you do zip line, Tarzan vines, a lot of cool stuff. So you're in contact with nature, in contact with your inner self, and also in contact with your friends or family.
How long ago did this start?
It started 17 years ago. The idea came with my partner at that time, Jean-Marie Bévillard. We had a connection. I was a teacher, and he was in my class as a student. He was an entrepreneur from France. He came in Canada, and he had that vision. So I was very interested in that. He offered me to join. So that was it. And
was this a concept that started in France? Like, does it already exist there?
Yeah, very. In France, the adventure tourism is very well developed, and in the Alps, the guy were having a lot of chairlift, so there was a lot of cable and a lot of time apparently. So they start to attach the trees, and that. Then the Alpineers thought, hey, maybe there's a business out of that. And eventually in 93, the first adventure park was created in France. And maybe in 2000, there was about 400 of those. And but when Jean-Marie arrived, that was a fresh market of blue ocean. And Quebec was very special because 3 parks from 3 different companies, Acrobranche, Arbraska, and Arbre en Arbre, arrived at the same time.
You all started the similar business?
Similar business in 2-3 weeks difference. So when I thought
you had immediate competition.
Yes, I thought we were alone. That was unique. Boom, Arbre en Arbre came and stole a bit the name, and so everybody was saying, "Hey, Arbre en Arbre, Arbre en Arbre." They were coming at my park and they were saying, "Hey, we did Arbre en Arbre, Rodden." So, but no, that was Arbraska rather, right? So that was very funny. And another guy arrived in the same market in Mont-Tremblant also. We were in Rodden. So that was a very competitive market right away.
Now, you have 10 locations now, 5 in Quebec and 5 in Ontario, correct?
Correct, yes.
How do you choose your first location was Rodden?
Yes.
How did you choose that location, and what drives the choice of other locations?
Well, we had a vision that we need to be per-urban, needed to have a lot of trees. So there was a lot of idea, Saint-Sauveur. Then we had an opportunity to have a nice terrain with nice trees, big pine, white pine. So the location was fantastic with a pit of sand. And so Rodden, when I was a kid, I was going there in the set shit there's a lot of lakes. So for me, that was fun. So I said, okay, let's do it.
What made you choose the business? How did you get into this ziplining thing?
Well, I was a business coach, and I had a contract with school board for education, adult education in how to create your business. And Jean-Marie came from France, and he had sold all his business asset, plucked out his family, and arrived in Quebec. And he told me, hey, I need to succeed, so I have 3 business ideas. So he had the Arbraska project, but at that time I did not understand. I said, "Oh, now it's a bit risky. This is so. What are your different project opportunities?" I said, "Well, I would like to do a school, a circus school." So, Cirque du Soleil, seven digit, Cirque Éloise, École nationale du cirque. You have a big competition. What is your other projects? So he said, well, a bed and breakfast and art gallery. So I said, okay, this is easy. Will not lose money. Will not make too much money. So that's it. Because I thought the project in the trees, I did not understand at all the concept. It was so new, and he told me I need to succeed. So that was
you had to choose. You had to choose the most likely one.
Yes, exactly. But eventually, I changed my heart, and I had a dream, and I wake up in the morning at 4 a.m. and had that project in my head. So the morning after, I had the consultation with him. I said, "Hey, Jean-Marie, no, you have to change your idea. We will take the tree project." He said, no. I mean, you told me the Canadian market is not ready for that. I need to succeed. And I said, no, I have been serious about that. I studied the market. It won't work. So that was the start of the story.
So when you're the location's Rawdon, do you buy your locations? Do you rent
At
it?
that time, I bought my location. Then eventually, my competitors start doing franchise. So they were popping out of nowhere all the time. So that was a bit tough because we had to buy the property. Then
and you had to build out. You had
build
to
out, and the guy was sitting park. It was very not too much difficult on capital for them. So eventually we bought the two first land, Rawdon and Rigaud, and then eventually I said, "Wow, I'm getting beat at my game." So I said, Abraham win on the name. I will go in Ontario and I will create a great name. So we choose Treetop Trekking. So that was our name, and that defined the industry in Ontario now.
And that's where you're going next. So what a great start to the story. I know there's so much. There's human resources. You employ so many people. There's marketing, certainly with the competition, and then of course you had to deal with a tragedy in your business. So when we come back, we're going to address those few topics.
News on the way. Then more with Stephane Vachon of Arbraska on our final show of the season on Today's Entrepreneur.
For professional advice with a personal touch, consult FL Fuller Landau, Chartered Professional Accountants and Business Advisors. Click on flmontreal.com.
Welcome back to Today's Entrepreneur, presented by FL Montreal, a program about the entrepreneurial spirit that drives Quebec business. Dan Delmar and FL Montreal's Josh Miller with you for our final show of the season. We'll be back in September, and we're doing some adventuring today with Stephane Vachon of Arbraska. This is a ziplining company, 5 locations in Ontario, 5 in Quebec, including in Rawdon and others around Montreal. We'll get to, I guess, some of the tragic part of your story in a little bit, and Nick will talk about this later on, what happens if tragedy strikes your business and how should a business owner respond to this. But Josh, it's been a long season.
I've been called worse, man. It's okay.
It's been a long season. It's a relatively new business. I mean, 15 years now to have
17 years.
17 years,
yes.
Of 10 locations. Wow, that's a very strong start.
and really, if it was a pretty new concept 17 years ago, and marketing, I'm sure, plays a big role. I mean, today for sure, but back then, when you're fresh and starting, what worked for you for marketing back then?
Well, we had my background is marketing, so I studied university in marketing, but we had $30,000 to invest. To break the barrier sound and marketing in Montreal, $30,000 is a penny. Yeah. So we went into guerrilla marketing, go in the trench, try to do the snowball effects. So really having the first customers, they were so enthusiastic. We were so high energy. They said, "Oh, we want to help you. We want to help you. Give me a brochure." Yes, okay. And then the guy said, "Hey, give me more brochure." Snowball effect was immense.
This is your customers?
Yes, because that was so new. That was a so fresh experience. They were touched by the experience. So we were always saying, "Are you happy? Could you help us? We are a new company." So the word of mouth was fantastic. Eventually, we had an article in Le Devoir. Le Devoir is not a big newspaper, but it has a kind of an
It has a
impact.
good following.
Yes. So we had the first page in the first page of the second book, and we had 5 sun and 4 flies, because there was a bit of flies, but the article was very good. So that was it, and eventually we had Journal de Montréal, eventually CTV news, and then word of mouth, and that was booming.
And what do you do? So that was great. The word of mouth and the press and the articles were great. And as you accumulated a few dollars, were you able to find areas to spend on, or did you really continue that guerrilla type marketing?
Both. We then we went into advertising newspaper. We cover a truck with our advertising. We had a lot of brochure. We gave giveaways to top people, we think. And
then, of course, as you grew with your human resources, with your whole team, they, of course, spread the word as well.
Also, but the big turnout when we decide to go big in how do you say that, billboards. We bought once. We bought I don't know. We had a good support from Astral, and they help us, and we had maybe 100 billboards, and boom,
100 billboards.
Yeah, something like that. For a couple of weeks, they gave us a hand, and that was that. So that was big. So eventually, we always put 8% of our budget in
marketing.
Media purchase. So we were doing our own media purchase, and we were good in marketing. I had Stephanie Grenier, she helped me a lot. We were both doing all the marketing, but we always put 7 or 8% in media purchase. That was a success story.
Now, I know you're sitting here today telling your story, but you did, and I referred this in the past, you did have a partner that you referred to that is not sitting here today.
Yes.
Why is he not sitting here today?
He unfortunately passed away of a cancer, and yes.
So a few years ago, right?
3 years ago, yes. Just really, just when we finished to accomplish the dream to have 10 parks, our vision, he unfortunately passed away.
Were you prepared? How did it affect you? How did it affect the business?
Well, it's affected the business because, first of all, what is cool to have a partner in operation and is when there's a difficulties, you have a confident. You always can, maybe you're not always in accordance with his decision, but when you go to fight and you have a difficulties, you have your partner is there. So sometimes in life, you go high, you go down. It's not stable. Stability is not always in entrepreneurship. Come on, no. So having a partner to reflect on situation is good. So when he disappeared, I said, I had no one to say my story. Sometimes you cannot be confident to tell all your stories to employees. Bad. I mean, if you have a bad day with this or that, you don't want to spread the word.
You're a leader.
You're the leader. You're supposed to be the captain of the ship. You don't tell all your stories.
So how were you able to rally the troops? Were you able to have I guess if I can say, a positive spin to your team? Were they helpful to you? Did they inspire you to
I think
continue
they
and do your
did it
best?
for Jean-Marie. They want to succeed. I mean, to accomplish the vision, and that's what it's. You know, a company is made of companions. This is a company. So it's not only about money, it's about individual stories that get together and make things happen. This is a company, you know. So this is what we are. At first, we did say, well, we want to be a family, but no, we were the Arbraskaians, a tribe, like an Indian tribe. You know?
Did you give yourself Indian tribe names?
No, but the nicknames.
Oh, nicknames, okay.
Yes, everybody had the nicknames. You had the Bout de Bois. Everybody has the nicknames. Jukebox. So when people came, that was our idea. That George arrived is not George, is maybe Scoopy. And so when you have a problem, his problem is not in the park, because he has another personality, a happy personality that receives people. That was the concept on HR. And honestly, that's helped pass through difficult time. So when Jean-Marie passed away, everybody put a second effort. And it seems there was always an extra player on the ice.
Excellent. So much, such great story and great inspiration. Thank you very much, Stephane.
And we'll have Stephane's one piece of advice for today's entrepreneur, the last piece of advice for the season, on the way. And up next, Nick Moraitis, tax partner at FL, walks us through what to do if a similar tragedy strikes your business. So that's on the way.
For professional advice with a personal touch, consult FL Fuller Landau, Chartered Professional Accountants and Business Advisors. Click on flmontreal.com.
Inspiring stories from outstanding business people. Dan Delmar and FL's Josh Miller with you for our final Today's Entrepreneur of the season. Stephane Vachon from Arbraska has his one piece of advice for today's entrepreneur in a moment. But first, Nick Moraitis is back, tax partner at FL. Welcome back, Nick.
Hi.
And Josh, let's go through the more difficult part of Stephane's story here, and how you respond if your business partner, the other half of your enterprise, suddenly passes.
And hopefully the lessons here, and Nick is going to chat about a lot of things in a short period of time. And these are thoughts that you're going to have after your partner passes away, but hopefully you can have the takeaway of planning beforehand. And I guess we'll just turn it over to Nick. And what are the first thoughts that come to mind?
Well, one of the takeaways of tax planning is to plan. That's a key portion. Is try to plan ahead of time and try to do it right away. We can't speak to the operational issues that death causes that Stephane had to work with. So what we're trying to do is let's now reduce the uncertainty. What partners need to understand is that if you're not around anymore, someone's replacing you as owner of your shares, and it's not someone who may be contributing to the business. It's a spouse, it's a child, it's a representative of the estate, and all of a sudden now we're caught in a conflict as to, well, what do? We don't want that conflict at that time. Neither he or she who might be previewing their death, they want to settle it so that their estate gets what they need, and the owners who are continuing have the certainty that this is what's going to go happen. So how do we do this? It's basically negotiating and settling a shareholders agreement that spells out some four key, I think, factors when it comes to what happens on death. So one of them is, well, are we going to continue as partners, or are we buying each other out should someone pass away? How do we determine that value? Should we buy each other, or we want to go to court and fight it out when you're not around anymore, one of the partners, or do we decide now? Where are we going to get the cash to buy you out, which therefore brings up the specter of life insurance as a means of funding, and then the mechanical, well, how are we going to buy you out? Are we redeeming shares? Are we buying shares? And what do we do? And that's the four key criteria and ingredients that go into the shareholders agreement.
So let's start with the first one. Let's go in order.
Yeah. So most of the time is, well, I'm not going to be a partner with your spouse or your kids, so I'm going to buy you out. and that works fine. And in the beginning, that's exactly what should happen. As life continues and you're getting older and the kids grow up and let's say your kids now start working in your business and they're part of the picture. All of a sudden, well, do you want your shares to be bought out or do you want your shares to go to your kids so they can continue? Now you open up the discussions again. But generally,
hopefully those decisions and discussions happen while everybody's alive.
While everybody's going on, yeah. But that's the thing. It's normally and that's sometimes very curious. You're discussing with some of our clients who are just starting out their business, and here we are walking in there. We want to talk about the shareholders agreement and dying even before you've made your first buck. But that's life. The second the fight that usually does happen is the valuation. If it's not spelled out anywhere, you're going to get an estate or a spouse or a child or the representative of the estate coming and saying this business is worth a lot of money. And the owner who's still alive is saying, wait a second, this business is not worth what it used to be. I just lost my partner, who is my confidant, who is my helper. How do we reconcile? We're either going to court to fight it out, or you're hiring a lot of professionals to negotiate for you. So it's best to have that idea, either a mechanical calculation or a process that's identified in the shareholders agreement. This is what we're going to do, and this is what's going to give the value.
And of course, it's great to have those discussions when everything is good and you have that good relationship. When things go bad or at a sudden death, when you're not sure, there's things that maybe aren't perfect in your business, it's much more difficult to have that. And we could probably have a whole other show with Stephane on his experience because it happened so suddenly. But these are things that you can't always
absolutely
foresee.
And then all this comes in. How are we going to pay you? Especially if there's a bank involved, especially if we have money to reinvest, we have money to maybe pay some dividends, but we may not have the money to buy out a person, especially if they're a sizable shareholder, which therefore goes into life insurance. But as you know, life insurance is, you get it today for hopefully, we're probably using it many, many, many years in the future, but you got to get down and do it today and discuss how much do you need? Do you buy a little? Do you buy a lot? And there's a whole discussion on that.
Because there's also a cash flow effect.
Absolutely.
Today that, when your business is starting out, you can't necessarily afford it until you start making something. I see Stephane, he keeps nodding his head, even though he's not saying anything. He's being very good. But definitely there's cash flow considerations.
It's usually that first meeting with clients, you're just starting out your business. Well, the second thing after a shareholders agreement to, okay, your dad, let's go out buy life insurance, but wait a second, we want to start earning some money. And then comes the mechanical details as to, well, how are we buying you out? And that's usually a question of some tax planning. It's a discussion. And it's trying to realize how much insurance is available. What do you think the company is going to be worth? And then try to do some tax planning around it to get a hybrid between the two.
Stephane, and not to go into any details, but did you feel that you were prepared when your partner passed away?
Not at all. I mean, he was 63 years old. So I thought that was not even a topic. At first, we had insurance, but exactly it was costing too much. We were paying $10,000 a year or more. So we eventually, in the process, we flushed that out and cash in. And 10 years after, he passed away.
And this is something that we tend to find it with shareholders agreement. And when you're talking about death, you sometimes you just cannot afford to keep adding more and more insurance. It's just costing a lot. And usually then what you got to do is sit there. Okay, fine. So we're not going to buy insurance, but my shares keep going up in value. How are you paying me? The difference between the insurance. Let's come up with some schedules so we're not fighting.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Topic that we can probably go on for a really long time.
And the last one for the season.
And the last one for the season, exactly. So it's a positive note. So we're going to end on a really positive note. And thank you, Dan, for the great season. But as we do before the end of each program, Stephane Vachon from Arbraska, what would be your one quick piece of advice for today's entrepreneur?
I would say be true to receive truth. Meaning that be fair in your business with other people. Be fair to yourself. Don't lie to anyone, and more so to yourself. So be true to receive truth.
Excellent. What goes around comes around.
Stephane Vachon of Arbraska, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thank you so much.
And Nick Moraitis, thank you very much. And thanks, Josh, for a great season. I'm off back to work to more inspired to work on my business.
We're all going to be more inspired after the season.
Another great season. See you in September.
You got it.